Hi guys, this is a part 2 of Fall in Love with Thermodynamics. So, if you haven't watched the previous video, then please watch it and then only you will get understand at least what I say. Okay. So, I was saying about the Kelvin Planck statement and heat engine, that is no mission or no system is 100% efficient. So similarly, if I take the case of what you say there, like first statement, that is Colossian statement, and in that we studied about refrigerator, right? So this is a refrigerator. This is what we call to be as a system, okay? And this is T2. This T2 is called as reservoir. Reservoir means the source. We should provide some work to the refrigerator, right? So initially this T2, which is in low temperature, okay, this is called as sink, okay, sink, okay. So this T2 will provide some energy, I mean heat, let it be Q2, and will emit the work of Q1 and the temperature T1, which is at high temperature. And this thing won't takes place, we need to apply some work, that is in the form of the current we apply, that is W, okay. Now so the total, the energy, this is the energy which is releasing, that is Q1 is equal to Q2 plus W, Q2 plus W, okay. So in order to form this mathematical equation, it is very simple. What outside, write it first, and what is going inside to this main thing, write in the RHS, simple, okay. So this is actually from refrigerator, that is from high temperature, so from high temperature to low temperature, there is no work should be required. I had told in the previous video with the help of an example. But from low temperature to high temperature, we need to supply some energy, and that energy is in the form of the work done by the current, okay. Now, according to the Kelvin Planck's statement, that is heat engine. This is R means refrigerator, okay. Now let us take the case of heat engine. Suppose this is a heat engine. We are providing some temperature, we are providing some heat, that is Q, okay. This is simple, no energy should be provided because it is heat engine. This is the energy which is providing is called to be as a reservoir source, which is at high temperature, okay, high temperature. There we studied that we need to bring from low to high, that's why energy is required. So from high to low temperature, no energy is required. So heat energy, this is being, what to say, it is doing some work, work, okay. So efficiency formula is work by heat given, okay, W by Q, okay. Actually there is no energy, no system which gives the efficiency of 1, or there is nothing which is 100%, which is impossible actually, okay. So what is possible? Let us come to the reality, okay. This is a impossible case. Why did I say that? Because we are providing some heat and the whole heat is converted as W. Q is equal to W. So what happens? W I can write as Q. Q by Q gives 1. So this is impossible. So what is the thing that is possible? Let's see that, okay. So this is Q1, okay. This is this T1, that is the source or reservoir, what else you can call, and it is providing some heat to this heat engine, and it is giving an output of T2, the same only I drew, but here it is also emitting some work also as a heat. It will emit, like everything, if you use it for a long time it will emit heat. Already it is emitting heat, but we don't feel it because of some physics, okay. So efficiency in this case is what? W by input is what? Q1, okay. So this one actually work done is what? Q1 minus Q2 divided by Q1. This is a thing that is possible, okay. Here I have drawn one more, okay, I will draw it. Heat engine providing T1, work is done Q1, and T2 reservoir. Impossible because nothing extra is being lost, right? So it is impossible. If something is lost as heat, then it is possible, okay. Then comes a great scientist called as Carnot, and he introduced a theorem called as Carnot theorem. What is Carnot theorem? Carnot theorem means we have studied in the second law itself, that is no engine can be efficient with 100%. Okay, and actually this Carnot theorem is the theorem where engine can do up to its maximum efficiency. So only an engine called as Carnot engine can have a maximum efficiency. No other engine can have maximum efficiency. You can't invent an engine which is having efficiency more than the engine found out by the Carnot. Okay, so this is a maximum part. Okay, so what do it says? This is actually this engine. What is the specialty? Is it is reversible engine. Okay, reversible engine, and during the forward reaction of this engine, it works as heat engine, and during the reverse reaction, it works as a refrigerator. Nice. If you invent an engine which have efficient more than the efficiency by Carnot engine, then it's nothing wrong with Carnot engine, it's wrong with you. So this actually, the efficiency, we studied this formula, right? Efficiency W is equal to work by Q1. This was the actual efficiency we studied, but for irreversible. But if it is a Carnot engine, we have efficiency equal to T1 minus T2 by T1. This is a maximum where you can find the maximum efficiency. This is an ideal engine. Okay, this is an Carnot engine is an ideal engine. So remember this formula. Now the thing is, this is a refrigerator. Okay, and this is T1 and T2. We are supplying T2 and work is done on the system. So the total will be Q1. This is Q1, this is Q2. Okay, Q1 is equal to work plus Q2. Q2. Then we have one more thing, COP. COP means coefficient of performance. Okay, so coefficient of performance means Q2 by W for refrigerator, but for Carnot it is reversible. That time the Carnot refrigerator efficiency is T2 by T1 minus T2. Remember this, it is very important. Okay, then the question that I have seen many times is the inventor problem. You can see here. Okay, this is inventor problem. Validate the claim. Okay, someone have invented a machine like this. We are providing some T1 and Q1 amount of heat to this heat engine, and this is at 1000 Kelvin initially, and this is doing the work of 100 joule on this heat engine, and this is doing the work and releasing the heat as 40 joules. Doing 40 joule of work from 100 joule, and the temperature it was 1000, and when it had done the work, it became 500 Kelvin, and it had also emitted some heat as work done, which is 60 joules. So in that case, whether this inventor of this machine is a successful person or a failure person. So for that, first of all, actual efficiency is output by input percentage. Output is what? Output is 60. Okay, 60 by 100. Okay, that will give me a percentage, 60%. Okay, now suppose if it is Carnot engine, what is the case? It is having the maximum efficiency. No other engine can have efficiency more than Carnot engine. So the formula is T1 minus T2 by T1. T1 was 1000, T2 was 500, T1 is 1000. Substituted, we will be getting 50%. So Carnot engine itself is only having 50%. Okay, that is the ideal one. It is having the maximum efficiency, but he invented a machine which is having 60%. So is it possible? No, because no one can go behind this Carnot engine. Okay, so thus it is a reversible engine or Carnot engine. If it is 50%, we can say okay, this is possible, this machine is possible, and hence you are approved. But as it is exceeding more than 60%, more than 50%, that is not valid, it is impossible. So this machine is utter failure, and the inventor is get out. That's it. Okay, now the next thing we are going to study is then we have some few more equations to study. Okay, and it comes like this. Okay, you have to study, no other way. These and all I have already explained in the first video. And from the third point, delta H is equal to U plus PV. You know all the statement. Delta H is heat absorbed at constant temperature, constant pressure. Delta U is change in entropy or the internal energy. P is pressure, and we know all the things. PV is equal to nRT equation. That's why I got like this. Okay, and everything nr value and all is given. Then what is heat capacity? It is defined as the amount of heat required to raise its temperature by 1 degree Celsius. Okay, if I am having 99 degree, it will look nice only if it is 100. So I need to increase how much percentage? 1 degree Celsius I have to increase. So that is called as heat capacity. And it depends on quantity of matter. Okay, suppose I am having a big system and a small system. Both are at 99 degrees Celsius. I want to make both of them at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, my ideal thing is 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so I need to increase the temperature by 1 degree Celsius. Both of them should be increased by 1 degree Celsius. But here, as a system is small, we need only small amount of heat is required to make it to 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, here large amount of steam because quantity is more as compared to this one. That is what I have written over here. Okay, now moving on to intensive and extensive properties. So intensive properties of a system which depends upon, depends upon means it is extensive, depends upon the quantity of matter, we call it to be as a extensive property. We have studied heat capacity and all. Okay, so these are the examples. Then those which are independent of the quantity of matter, we call it to be as intensive properties. Okay, example is given. Now you can read this. I'm not explaining because even an LKG student, if you read, will get it. Okay, state variables, there are 3 state variables: PVT, pressure, temperature. Okay, now specific heat capacity. Wait, V is volume. Okay, I told like in the previous video it is velocity, it is volume, sorry. Now specific heat capacity, don't get confused with the heat capacity and specific heat capacity. Specific heat capacity means 1 gram of substance by 1 degree Celsius. Same example can I take so that you will be more used to it. Okay, so I am having a big vessel and a small vessel. Both are at 99 degrees Celsius and I need to increase the temperature to 100 degrees Celsius. It is my temperature that I require. Both of them need 1 degree Celsius in order to get this temperature. Okay, I told that as the system is bigger one, we need to apply more heat, and as the system is smaller one, we have to supply more heat. But what if I take only 1 gram of this part? This is also 1 gram. So we need to get into this 100% from this 1 gram. Both is 1 gram. So there is which is independent of this quantity of matter. What is independent of quantity of matter means it is intensive property. So not the point. Heat capacity is extensive and specific heat capacity is intensive. Okay, and specific heat capacity is denoted by small c. Small c equal to capital C into molar mass. It is heat capacity into molar mass. Okay, I have written the thing here, and then there is a formula. Q is equal to mc delta T. Q is the heat required to raise the temperature and m is a mass. C is specific heat capacity, small c. Delta T is temperature change, T1 minus T2. State variable we already told: pressure, volume, internal energy, entropy, temperature. So that is state variable. This is state function. Okay. Then state function means actually depend on the state of the system, whether it is in a liquid, gas or a solid, whatever it may be. Path function means they depend on the path, work done, then heat change and all will depend on the path, so it is called as path function. Okay, then molar heat capacity at constant pressure, so it is Cp, amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 mole of gas by 1 degree Celsius when pressure is constant, the same as this thing. Here it is, we have to represent, here we studied at 1 gram, here 1 mole, and here pressure is kept constant. That is only difference we have. Okay, then similarly we have Cv. When volume is kept constant, 1 mole should be increased, 1 degree Celsius is increased from 1 mole. That is this thing. Okay, then the 12th point is heat MCT, just like that NCT. N is nothing but gaseous product minus reactant. Okay, then there is a relation between Cp and Cv. For ideal gas, it is Cp minus Cv equal to universal gas constant R, and delta H is the reaction enthalpy change of the reaction. Okay, so it is enthalpy of product formation minus reactant formation, product minus reactant. But here the same delta H is reactant minus product. What is it? If it is formation, product minus reactant. If it is bond energy or bond enthalpy, reactant comes first, then only product comes first. Okay, then I have told entropy, but I haven't defined it. Entropy means For an isothermal and reversible process, the entropy is given by this formula. You can observe this formula, okay? Delta is equal to Q by T. Q is heat absorbed, right? Now, change in entropy during the isothermal expansion is given by this formula. You have no other option, just go and study it, okay? Then entropy of phase transition, that is during the phase transition the reversible system absorbs heat at constant pressure. That formula is H by T. H is latent heat of heat of fusion and vaporization, and T is also fusion or vaporization or boiling point, whatever is given to you, that's it, okay? Now, in isolated system, the process will be spontaneous only if entropy change is positive. Delta is greater than 0 positive means it is spontaneous, okay? That's it. Then for non-isolated system is in direct contact with the surrounding. That is, any change in entropy in the system is likely to bring change in entropy of the surroundings. These things you just read it, okay? Okay. Now, if the entire universe is taken, then the delta is total or the delta is universe is positive. So for spontaneous, everything should be positive. That's the only thing you have to study. Delta is positive, universe positive, system positive. Okay. Now, the above equation justifies the spontaneous. Okay, blah 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 blah, these things just read it off. Then Gibbs energy means H minus T delta S. This is a formula, okay? So this is actually, we have studied delta S and all for spontaneity, but the main thing, delta G determines whether a thing is spontaneous or not. If delta H is negative, it is spontaneous. If it is 0, it is at equilibrium. If it is positive, it is non-spontaneous. Here I have completely mentioned the delta G, when it is spontaneous, when it is non-spontaneous, okay? When delta G is negative, we can say it is spontaneous, non-spontaneous. I have written it over here and I have explained it also. And there is one relation which used to come mainly for JE and all. So delta G equal to minus 2.3 RT log K equation. Equilibrium constant, okay? Now K equilibrium constant is equal to E raised to minus delta G naught by RT, okay? Or like this you can also express it. Then one law is there, Hess law means it is the enthalpy of chemical reaction. It remains the same however or whatever be the number of steps. If it is in one step, the enthalpy is same. If it is in 2 step, the reactant and product, if you see, the enthalpy will be same. That's the thing what Hess law states, and its application is Born-Haber cycle that you will study later, okay? That's it. Thank you. That is the thermodynamics. This is what you are afraid of, right? Yeah. Now it is no more afraid. Just cool. It's cool, yaar. So do your best. That's it. And keep your smile always there. If you like, please like it. Okay. Thank you.